I often say that a large portion of the Apex community is just waiting around for the next big thing. You know, for that new, shiny game to actually drop. And with the game, according to some members of the community, being on its last legs, I've naturally been asked whether the finals would be the game to deliver the finishing blow to Apex Legends. And let me tell you, the finals is not that game. Don't get me wrong, I'm having so much fun playing the finals. As I'm writing this video, I'm sitting in the middle of a queue, off stream, playing on my own in my office in the complete dark at about, wow, 4 AM. And I mean, the finals feels incredible to play. The feel of the guns, the animations, the sound effects, and the attention to detail all feels amazing. I mean, just look at how satisfying something as small as getting a kill looks like. And the amount of customization is unmatched, and even though there's plenty of customization to be had with the different sets of clothes for your character, weapon skins, animations, and so much more, there's even more customization with the gameplay as well. In your loadouts, the many different power-ups, and all kinds of utility, along with a vast array of different types of weapons, allows for so much variation that the best and the most creative players really can shine through. And that, in addition to the complete destruction that is possible on the map, makes every game feel truly exciting and unique. I mean, you can blow up entire buildings or level whole areas just to turn the fight in your favor. If a team is fully posted and camping a position, you can just blow that position out of this world and suddenly they don't pose that much of a problem anymore. Similarly, if you can't reach the objective, you could use your utility and move it elsewhere. For example, you could make a hole in the floor underneath the objective or the enemies, with you waiting on the other side. The gunplay feels great. Almost all weapons are hit scan, and the recoil patterns can be studied and learned for a deeper mastery, and there are so many options with movement that truly also has a lot of potential for, well, mastery. And other than some RNG events that just keep things fresh without being too intrusive, there isn't that much randomness in the game's core mechanics. So no matter what happens, the game just feels consistent. And thanks to the core mechanics feeling consistent and rewarding with as little randomness as possible, the game will allow for a lot more skill expression, which will let the gifted players naturally float towards the top. There aren't any participation trophies given out to the weaker players just because they showed up, which I think is really good, but it does come at a grave cost. One which I will cover a little bit later in this video. Now, at the time of this video, the balance of the game does feel a bit all over the place, with some weapons being a lot stronger than the others and some classes feeling extremely strong and almost impossible to counter, along with a bunch of cheese picks that players love to use just to get some cheap kills, and there are plenty of bugs that need to be fixed. I mean, whenever I play on stream, I crash almost every single game that I play. It's beyond frustrating. There's also been a wave of false bans going around, and other than the crashes, there's also been tons of reports of optimization issues, as well as this huge drama about movement where the developers supposedly changed how the movement would work after the beta. Speaking of which, movement is also server-sided, which makes it feel very floaty, and I'm not really a fan of that, but it is early in the game's lifespan, and even though this takes a hit to the game's initial hype, I'm sure it still has the potential to pick right back up once the initial issues are fixed. And the finals definitely feels like a great competitive game. It's clearly built for esports in mind. Every single piece of the gameplay is tailored towards a competitive game, and everything in the game itself, the announcers, the tournament systems, and the way the ranked is set up, practically scream esports. It's worth noting that at the time of this video, we don't know whether the developers are planning to take charge of an esports scene or not, but there are plenty of pros from other games just waiting for the opportunity to jump on something new and compete. And as there aren't any custom lobbies just yet, they're gonna have to use the ranked mode for now. It's definitely the type of game that I have been begging for a really long time, ever since I moved on from Overwatch, which was another game that was initially built with esports in mind. But despite all my praises, I still don't think that the finals will topple over Apex. Sure, it has an insane amount of potential as an esport, and sure, it's incredibly fun at the moment, but there's still something missing in the finals that Apex Legends can deliver. And honestly, by lacking this one thing, I'm convinced that the finals not only won't have a chance if it's facing off against other large titles such as Apex, I fear that the finals might not even have more than a few weeks, maybe a few months of hype before it stops being played by the mainstream. If anything, it's almost as while most people think that the finals is that one game that everybody flocks to since they're so boring bored of their main games, the finals itself will have their community jump ship the second something else like it is released. And unless Embark, which is the developers of the finals, does something about this, I don't have a lot of hope for the game moving forward. And it's really hard to boil down to that one specific thing, because I have a hard time putting my finger on it. If the Embark developers fix all of the issues that came with the game on release, they still wouldn't fix this one problem with the game, because I believe it might be a fundamental issue that comes with tailoring a game for a more competitive crowd where mainstream gaming is filled with the very casual, dopamine-hungry average players, which is, the game is really hard to pick up. Even now, on its release, it's hard to get half decent at it, and it's near impossible to become near excellent at. I don't know if the game has skill-based matchmaking or not, but if it doesn't, it's going to need it, because a first-timer booting into this game is going to get their teeth kicked in over and over again and probably just stop playing and go play Fortnite or something, I don't know. As a contrast to this, AAA games like Apex almost constantly go out of their way to appeal to the casual player base. There's strict SPMM, we have orientation matches, and there are balance changes all in place to make the game feel as easy as possible to play, where the only thing you need to win a game is getting lucky once or twice. Not to mention the ridiculous amount of RNG that holds good players back from reaching their potential and giving the bad players a much easier time than they really deserve. As a competitive player, I truly believe that the way Embark are running things with the finals are the most ideal competitively, but when you make the game this cutthroat, making it too hard to enter will just discourage any new and upcoming players from even trying it out in the first place. Just look at Quake Champions, built off one of the most popular FPS titles of all time, that recently had to shut down the professional league from lack of interest in the game and then its professional scene. So if we compare the finals to a mainstream AAA game, it does feel like they're in for a rough time. That being said, if they keep fleshing out the tutorials, because let's face it, the current finals tutorial certainly leaves a lot to be desired, this might ease the barrier of entry for new players. You guys know me though, I'm already working on tons of guides to help the new players get into the game, so if you are interested in picking up the finals yourself, make sure that you have subscribed so you don't miss out when that content drops. In addition to that, the developers need to add some type of new player protection to make sure low skill and the low level players play together in their own lobbies. Think orientation matches in Apex, until they are good enough to face the top player base. You know, unless it already exists and I just don't know about it. And if it doesn't exist, there also needs to be some type of SPMM outside of these orientation matches to make sure that the games are fairly balanced. Building off of that, and probably more important than SPMM, I'm noticing a pattern, a problem, that's been plaguing Apex since the launch in the finals as well. Namely, pre-made stacks can play against teams with pre-made duos, or that only just consists of solo players. As most people should know by now, being in a pre-made stack is an insanely large advantage, and even if you aren't actively trying with strategies or whatever, you will start winning so many more games just by having people in a voice chat who are sort of on the same page. And if we can make a full separation of solos and stacks early in the game, this will help with the matches feeling a lot more fair, because all the players will be around the same skill level and nobody will have this unnecessary advantage. And besides making sure that new players don't instantly quit, I'm also worried that something else is missing from the game. Like, there's one thing that's holding the game back an obscene amount, and you can feel it whenever you play. However, despite banging my head against the wall over and over again, I cannot for the life of me figure out what this one thing is. That being said, I am sure it will become a lot more apparent if the game does start taking a turn for the worse. All in all, the finals is a great competitive experience. It's tons of fun. I mean, I'm grinding the hell out of it even when I'm not streaming or making content. But I don't think there's a way it's going to kill Apex, because at the moment, I'm not even sure if it will make it past its 5 minutes of fame on its own. I really hope I'm wrong, because it is really fun, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.